All right, all right, all right. I'm going to get myself on the screen because that's the one thing I didn't fix. My name is Nate Manahan, and I am live here in Indianapolis, Indiana, coming to you on a cold, blustery day. But I can guarantee you this, that our guest here on Office Hours, as we launch our 2026 interview series, as we talk to the people that are actually out there on the streets making their living, doing payments, I'm guessing it's colder, has more white on the ground, and he's about a 6-8 hour drive. I've never driven. It's about what I know how far Minneapolis is that it's about a hour and 12-minute flight from Indianapolis, depending on the traffic on the air. Not air traffic. I don't even know. Hey, but we're gonna bring everybody up the screen on the right hand side of your screen from Glenwood Springs, Colorado. Ignore the middle person right now. Is Jenny Rickel. Jenny, Happy New Year. It is the 15th. It's payday in PayProTec world for all of our partners. It's the time where we're starting to kind of look in and say, hey, let's make this year amazing. How are you and how was your holidays and New Year's?
Things are going great. Holidays were fantastic and really excited for 2026. Like, I feel refreshed, ready for the new year to come and the exciting things that are going to happen. We're already talking about some shows and some traveling and some new things that are going on. So, super excited for what's to come.
Awesome. And in the center part of your screen, wearing, what color do I call that? Is that a coral, Brad?
Texas orange.
Texas
Yay,
orange. See,
orange.
I see. He knows what
Texas
exactly
orange.
what that
Yes.
color is because it's his branding color. From SwiftPay in Minneapolis, Minnesota, Brad Ganzer. Brad, how are you? And what's the weather like in Minneapolis this time of year?
Well, your wind came here, and then it's changed. We've had pretty mild weather. We've got a lot of snow, and it's taken a turn, and now it's pretty stinking cold today.
Yep. This time of year, I just get tired of our yin and yang in Indianapolis. It was 55 degrees 2 days ago, and today the high is like 27. And I'm just ready for some. I just like it to stay there for a little while. If it's going to go cold, go cold. If it's going to go stay warmer, stay warmer. But at the end of the day, we want to get hot and try to in our sales and get going on our things. And so, Brad, I'm going to ask you our first question. And Jenny and I are going to, by the way, Mike's not here today. He's taking, it's been a hard year. He's taking a vacation day. But sorry, he planned vacation. He told me last week he was going to be out this Thursday as we
Yep.
launched. But Brad, can you tell me a little bit? How in the world did you find this world of payments? How long have you been in it? How did you find it? Tell us your origin story to being part of the payments world.
Simple answer is I went broke.
Oh, there you go.
Uh, so I owned and operated a mortgage company here in Minneapolis for about 17 years. 15 of those years were great, and the last two kind of wiped us out. That was around the mortgage crash. And we made it through. We had a small staff that we had shrunk down, and we made it through the mortgage crash. And then the industry changed, increased regulation, and I really kind of got bored and just got sick of it. And a local friend of mine, a church buddy, owns a small ISO, and I interviewed with him just to appease my wife. And he offered me a job as a sales manager, and I said, "What the heck? Let's do it." And so I ended up back in this industry. Worked with them for about a year, learned the industry. I didn't, what do they say? You marry the family. So some of the things that they did and some of the people around their sphere weren't really the way that I wanted to run a business. And so I ended up getting connected with Ignite Payments, started a agency relationship with them, and over the years have just kind of grown it along the way. And along that way, I met you guys at some trade shows and through some different relationships, and it's just continued to grow, and it's been a fantastic experience. I wish I would have done it when I was 25 instead of 40. So.
Well, certainly I'm going to ask you some questions about what advice you would give yourself. But let's kind of talk about how many years ago you said, was that like 2009, 2010 approximately?
Yeah, I left the industry in 2011, mortgage
Okay.
industry.
Yeah.
So
And so you've been 14 years, so you're pre-EMV. What have been some of the biggest changes, surprises, things that have happened as you've been on the payment side, chasing that residual, finding out what have been some of the biggest things that have happened in your 15 years in the industry?
yeah, I think the biggest thing is the move to software and the move to just the software development has been revolutionary. I mean, we started, even when I started, we were on the tail end of the little, I don't even remember the name, the little T216s or whatever the heck they were. Uh, in the Veriphones, the 520s, and that's where we started, and I got really good at programming those. And then the world shifted rapidly. We started as an Ignite office, ended up with Card Connect and in the Clover world. And so I was there at the beginning of Clover, and that really started it from where I sat. We're a small office, we're kind of isolated, and it's you don't always get information. The industry, you have to go seek information if you want to grow your business and learn about the industry here. It's not very good industry as far as training new guys who want to learn and grow.
Well, and there's a lot of changes going on rapidly in technology. So then it changes how we sell things, and then even how margins change and all that. Jenny, I'll let you have the next question, then I'll jump back in. Jenny.
Well, and I'm also curious, did your experience in the mortgage industry and that past help you transition? Do you feel like it helped you be a little bit more successful when you jumped into the merchant processing industry and helped that transition?
Yeah, very much so. I think we did two things well in the mortgage industry. We were able to generate leads and close leads. Obviously, that made us successful. But I learned how to run a business. And when I left the mortgage business, I really didn't want to be a self-employed anymore. Uh, but the path kind of took me back to it, and having that experience on how to run a business effectively made it real easy to transition back into what we do now. And then I think the sales process is very similar. You're not working with the consumer anymore, but you're working with a business owner. But people are people, and their mindsets are the same. They want ease, they want simplicity, they want cost effectiveness, and they want someone who will answer the phone when they call them. Those are the very similar paths for the customer. So it wasn't a hard transition at all.
What do you think, Brad, has been as you've navigated your successful business? What has been some of the key things that you are found most important? So, if you're telling someone who's just getting started in payments, what have made you successful in the last 15 years as you've navigated all the changes, everything that's going on? What's helped you be successful in this business?
Again, as I mentioned, so going to basically a one man shop, and I've got a couple employees and a couple sales folks out there, but I do the bulk of the production. The hard part is learning the industry, and I think where I really I wanted to learn. So what I did is I made a conscious effort to do different trainings, but I also ended up getting on the trade, going to the trade shows where I got to meet. We've met up at several trade shows and got to meet personally, but I've been able to build relationships with people who know a lot more than I do around the country. And this industry is great. When you go to those type of events and you meet people and you break bread, you build friendships. And so if I don't know how to do something now, I've built my own network of people who can help me. And that was critical for growth and for stability and for sanity. So I think that's probably the best thing I did in this industry is I built relationships outside of Minneapolis that can help me navigate all the nuances that we see on a daily basis.
Speaking of those trade shows, and I'll go back to Jenny for a question. Obviously, we've connected at multiple trade shows, and what we know about you, Brad, is you Midwest is obviously your home territory's trade show, but you may show up at the Southeast. You may be you're at all the 4 regional shows and transiting through them and getting through. Have you found a difference between those different trade shows? We're coming up on an NEAA here just in a couple of weeks on February 3rd and 4th. We'll talk about our event that we're doing on the evening of the 3rd for a late night dinner together. But Brad, can you tell us a little bit of what your experience of those shows are? You talked about what you've gained, what tips you would go to if you're a first time going to one of those shows, and how do you navigate between which shows you choose to go to?
Usually it's weather dependent, as you mentioned. I love getting out of here in the winter.
So you're saying Boston in February doesn't provide a lot of differentiation between Minneapolis, though the Encore Hotel is very nice, but yes.
Yeah, you're not going to see me in Boston. As far as some of the shows tend to bring in uh, more vendors. And so the variety of vendors. Typically, when you go to trade shows, it's always the same people. Some shows seem to bring in a little bit, each region has a little different vendor setup. And then some of the ones like the southern ones, SEAA always seems to be the one that brings out the most people that I'm connected with, and I don't know why that is. It just is. Uh, but that's the one I usually get to the most. MWA. Sometimes I have a conflict because I ride my bike across Iowa. Jenny knows about that. So sometimes there's a conflict there, and the East Coast and the West Coast, I haven't been to those quite as much. So
All right, Jenny, you're up on the next question.
Well, now I need to ask if you can tell us a little bit about more that when you do when you're not a sales partner and ride your bike across Iowa. Like, can you tell us how long that takes and how many miles you go?
well, usually the RAGBRAI is something that's happened for over 50 years now, and it's about usually 400 to 500 miles, and it's a week, and you sleep in tents in people's front yards, and you see the local band, you see small town Iowa, and it's a great refresh because you restores your faith in humanity because people are just out there having fun. We don't talk politics, we don't talk business. It's just a lot of fun, just a lot of goofing around actually. And at my age, I don't have many of those years left. So
That's awesome.
I love stuff like that for sure.
Well, and I think finding things that are just fun for you outside of, Brad, I forget how many, but kids and family and everything else going on in life, you just got to have a little something to do. 5 kids, right?
uh, yeah, 5 kids at home. Two have graduated college. One's off to college, so the house is a little less frantic than it used to be. But uh, they all come and go, and they all. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. It's a very energetic house. So
That's awesome. So, Brad, can you tell us a little bit about what some of the peaks, what are some of the biggest sales that pop out of your mind? You don't have to name the business, but the type of sales that are, and maybe it's not even the ones you make the most money at, but that have been the most exciting, fulfilling success stories for you in the last your journey through payments.
yeah, we've had a couple. Some of those, some of the relationships I have in the mortgage industry translated here. A lot of business owners. So being able to, I don't know if there's necessarily one in that category, but being able to go back to the business owners that I worked with on the residential mortgage side, that's been very satisfying because those relationships have lasted a long time. Uh, we took another, I don't know if it's a fun, single story, but we had a lot of opportunity presented to us when Heartland ended up merging with Global. And some of the accounts we were able to get out of there were incredibly satisfying. They had good volumes, unique situations, things that I'd never dealt with, wireless, and I'm thinking one in particular has a bunch of retail stands around the country or around the area in the summer, and being able to work with them, and we still work with them on a regular basis because they have some seasonal component to it as well. That's probably one of my favorites. Is we watch how effective they are at what they do. But every business is cool in a way. That's one of the things I really love about this business is every time you sit down and you meet someone, I always like to find out about their business, what it is. And those are, I'm a business, run a business my whole life. That's really what I've done. And so I find that the most interesting is just learning about how people carve out a niche where they can feed their family and employ people is always, every story seems to have a unique component to it.
Tell me a little bit about how you set your own goals, how you've strategized for your growth. You mentioned, for the most part, you're a one-person shop, but you have other teammates that you. How have you strategized for that growth, and how are you looking at that as you enter a new stage? You say you're obviously in the middle. You have 5 kids. You got 2 at home, 1 in college, 2 that are graduated off. Life's changing, things transition. How are you setting goals for what kind of goals are you setting for the future as in this payments, whether it's residual goals, volume goals? How do you manage goals for yourself?
Yeah, I know. I don't know if I necessarily set a volume or a residual goal. We're still growing. Um, I, we're kind of in a transition too now that I've started to get some kids out of the college. I want to spend more time in the business rather than just managing it. So, those are questions that, I'd love to sit down and chart a better course. I know you guys have offered that on other podcasts, but I really focus on 3 areas. And it's joint ventures, it's referrals, and then we do have a retail channel where we drive revenue too. And so there's dozens of little opportunities that you see over the course of just sitting at a desk that you want to take part in. And so we're in the process of analyzing some different opportunities and just going to try to build out and further build out some of those areas where we're already successful driving leads. I know that's not a great answer. It's probably not my
There,
strong suit right now. Is
there is no bad answer, absolutely, and everybody's in different stages. That's what we try to get
Hmm.
is everybody's different experiences, and we try to provide as many opportunities because there's no wrong way to do it. It's just getting inspiration from other people, learning what you've already done, learning from those. I think it all fits together. I'll do one more question, then Jenny, you can ask whatever questions you may have. Is there some type of sale or system or software that excites you the most right now? Is it a vertical? Is it a piece of hardware or software? Is it an opportunity that you're looking to get into that maybe what excites you about payments right
oh,
now?
absolutely. I've like anyone who's been in this business a while, you work with a lot of restaurants and a lot of retail, and you get pretty tired of the Friday afternoon phone calls and uh, something's broken. So over the last year and a half, I've really worked hard to train myself on approaching the B2B client base. And that's really where, when I talk about those three areas where we get referrals, we're building joint ventures into B2B verticals where we can really get in and work at kind of a more at a business level, rather than get away from the retail a little bit. They seem to be more stable. They're easier to work with, and they have less attrition.
Have you
That's where I
found
want to.
Yeah. Have you found that the sales process is a longer sales process in those B2B, or what difference, obviously? And you mentioned, but you don't get the phone calls at Friday night at 2 a.m. like from a bar. Have you found those sales to be a longer sales process? And what are some of the learning curves you've learned as you've switched to B2B?
Yeah, overall, yes, the sales cycle's a little bit longer, but it really depends on who you're working with. We have small manufacturers, tons of manufacturing in the area around there's 3 million people in the Twin Cities area. So there's a healthy market for manufacturing, medical, uh, and depending on the business, it varies how long that cycle is. If it's a smaller family owned operation, it goes pretty quick. But if there's a couple extra layers, it takes a little bit longer. But it's not extensive.
Cool. Jenny?
I'm curious. So, you've been in the industry for a while. Do you find that you're more successful as you keep your business close in your area, like with the geography of it, or do you branch out and do you go to other areas as well and try to find businesses in other towns, even different states? Like, what do you think is the most successful as far when you go for leads and go for businesses, where they're located at as the approximate towards you?
Interesting. Good question. Obviously, when they're local, you feel more comfortable providing a good service level. But after COVID or during COVID, we developed a retail operation where we're able to get leads digitally. So we have accounts in probably 30 states total. So I've had to learn how to work in different markets, and where you lose that comfort level where there's always the comfort that you can always just drive over and look them in the face and walk them through a situation. It's a lot more challenging, but I found that people are a lot more willing to work through chatbots, through text, and through email, and most people prefer that until there's a critical event, and then you got to be able to answer the phone. And that's one of the things we really work hard to, is to make sure that we can connect with people when they really need someone to talk to. A lot of times you can't convey certain information or a certain tone through a text or an email, so you just pick up the phone. And it's worked well. It's been we have some bumps along the way learning how to do like a tobacco shop or some retail type operation in Denver or in Indianapolis or wherever. And uh, but we've got a lot of the kinks worked out, and we're accessible. And the trick is communication with these people, and especially when they got to know who they can call, and you got to be. Sometimes they forget, so you got to remind them who to call, and we have a pretty good strategy to stay in front our out of state merchants, just so they know that they're connected with us.
What do you think, Brad, is something that you wished you had learned? Maybe it's uh, I don't want to say a mistake for sure, but something that you said, man, I wished I'd known this earlier or learned this quicker. You said you wanted to be in the industry. That's always my favorite thing. Wished I'd started this industry earlier because there's so much opportunity and potential. But are there other things that you're like, man, I wish I had learned this earlier and this would help others that are getting in this industry?
Uh, Tough question. Like I say, I think that being able to build a network of people, the hardest thing, I wish I could have learned, a lot of the basics quicker. It was quite a trudge. Like when I first worked at an ISO, there wasn't a lot of education on the industry in there. And I remember the first thing I did when I went out on my own is I bought, I think it's Mark, I forget how to pronounce his last name.
Mark
He had a
Beauchamp.
book
Yep.
on, yeah, he had a book on the basics, and I wish I would have been given that the first day, because once you just understand the history and kind of the basic mechanics, it gets a lot easier faster. And I'm not the I know enough to be dangerous when it comes to technology and you know networking and things like that. But if I had a higher knowledge level of that, I could probably work through people's issues a lot faster. A 5 minute phone call versus an email and a response and back and forth. The coconut telegraph kind of thing where it takes days just to get an answer from someone. So I think those are knowing the technology. If I would have learned that quicker, I probably would have been more comfortable transitioning to especially some of the different softwares and some of the packages that we see now.
Cool. All right. I'm going to do some rapid questions. Jenny, if you have a question, jump in. Do you have are you a sports team? Do you have anything? Obviously, are you any sports that you're a fan of?
Cowboys 1, Vikings 2. Anyone who plays the Packers is number 3.
All right. All right.
That's my football lineup right there.
There you go. So that poses the question. You said Vikings 2, Cowboys 1. So you're not a native to Minneapolis. Is that correct?
Well, it's 1A and 1B.
Okay.
So yeah, they're top on the list. So
now, in years like this where neither of them make the playoffs, you're safe there. But hopefully,
I turn it off at halftime and go ahead and do something.
You can cheer
else.
for the Broncos. I'm just saying.
The bandwagon's open. There you go. So, as a Colts fan, we're not in the playoffs either. We just keep we go 8-9 or 9-8 and just sit in the middle and don't get better. That's how we roll. Jenny, got any last questions for Brad as we finish up this first office hours of 2026?
What keeps you coming back, Brad? You've been doing this a long time, and it sounds like you have a lot of plans for the future. What do you love about the industry? What keeps you coming back and staying in it?
Well, the residual aspect of the business is the best, and having a desire to grow that, and funding colleges. So money's a motivator. The other side of it is relationships. I enjoy the people I work with. I enjoy when we're able to meet up in a town and have not talk about work and have fun. Those are motivating. But just doing something that has a reward to it. Working with businesses the way that we do, we don't always feel the reward. If they don't call us, that means things are working. And so there's times when you don't talk to people a lot. So it's really nice to connect with people, and just growing something is, I get joy in running a business that is growing, and it has opportunity, because I've got kids coming up. Maybe they want to jump into the business. So there's a legacy component there too. Just to be able to continue to be out there doing stuff. I'm not the kind of guy who wants to, sit on the couch and other than Sunday watch football. That's not my style. So it's a great business, and there's always something new to learn, and there's good money to be made. And when you connect with great partners like PayProTec, I just want to keep that going.
Cool. All right, last question from me, Brad. What if you were talking to 16-year-old Brad? What would he have said his dream job was?
I don't know if 16-year-old Brad was I played hockey and football and track in high school, and I ended up pole vaulting in college. And I didn't really see much more than that. I knew I wanted to be in a business that included money and finance. I have a finance degree, and that's why I started in the mortgage industry. So I don't know if I have any. 16-year-old Brad learned a lot of lessons along the way, most of them hard and self-inflicted. So I think my 16-year-old advice would have been just don't be a dumbass.
There we go. I appreciate that. I think we all could say that to ourselves. And pole vaulting.
Yep.
Pole vaulting in college.
That's
First of all, I
fantastic.
was a thrower and threw my shoulder. I threw javelin in college,
I did not know
but
that.
I always imagine the upper body strength and control you pole vaulters had. That's a legit sport right there.
I know you guys, when you see me, I don't look like I was ever a pole vaulter, so that's okay.
So that's awesome, though. I mean, it's one of those things when you get into it, it's a skill. I remember trying it and going, no, this is never going to work. I just didn't have the whatever it takes. First, the body shape, and then two, the yeah. So, Jenny, any final questions for Brad as we close up here?
That's all I got.
All right. I'm going to do a little bit of housekeeping. For those who have watched all the way to the end, thank you so much for watching Office Hours. We're going to be here every Thursday about noon. I know we'll take a Thursday, February 4th off. Why? Because we're going to be at NEAA in beautiful Boston, Massachusetts at the Encore Hotel. And that Wednesday night, after the show floor closes that Wednesday night, we're hosting a dinner. We're heading over to the Oyster House. We're going to go to the oldest bar in the United States, operating bar. Late night for those who might enjoy a cigar. The oldest cigar bar in the basement is over there in the Old North area. We're going to have a lot of fun, but make sure you look for an email. I think it'll come out Monday or Tuesday where you can RSVP. I know Brad said he's not going to be there. Boston's a little chilly in February. We will say that, but it's at a beautiful venue, the Encore. It looks just like the one in Las Vegas, except this one's sitting just off the Boston Harbor. And it's going to be a lot of fun to be there in Boston. Jenny's going to be there. Jason Lee's going to be there. Danny's going to be there. I'm going to be there. Josh is going to be there. And we want to connect with you. So make sure you look for that email or email me at nate@payprotec.com. And we would love to do that. Also, if you're interested in telling your story of how you got into payments, we have a lineup of people that we're always asking, but we forget to ask, hey, you may have something you want to share. So as a part of your story of how you got into payments or something, how you have been learning and growing your business. So maybe it's something unique that you think others can learn from. We would love to tell your story. And if you're interested in that, you can also email me at nate@payprotec.com. And as we close out and give our final word, I don't have any cool videos. I'll work on that for the next week. But Jenny Rickle, as we have our first January 15th, 2026, first office hours, what's our final word for the day?
First of all, just another thank you to Brad for joining us today and sharing your story and just really getting excited, everybody, for the new year. Please come visit us if you're in the area in Boston. Would love to connect. PPT is going to be great this year. So good things coming. Hope everybody has a great rest of the week. Thanks so much for watching.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Brad, for joining us. Thank you, Jenny. Mike, we'll see you next week. And thank you for watching our office hours. Bye, everybody. Have a great week.
Sure.